Yo, welcome back. Secret House against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations, underground, independent, avant-garde, experimental, abstract music discussions. Today we're back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're going to do like a little video after this, and then so this will come after that. So we'll get all of our like what happened and what's going on with the show after that. But yo, yes, yeah. First off, shout out to all the Patreon, shout out to everybody. Today we are here, as you can read in the title, to discuss the new Doseone and Steel Tip Dove collaborative project that dropped on Backwoodz Records on January 10th. It is called All Portrait, No Chorus, 14 songs, 32 minutes. I think that, actually there's probably a lot of people who are not all that familiar with Doseone, perhaps just in namesake. But Doseone is a rapper, MC, poet, artist, producer, human being, writer, just a hip-hop human being. And of course Steel Tip Dove, shout out to Steel Tip Dove, friend of the show, a Patreon at some point. I don't know, he still may be a patron, but we love Steel Tip Dove's music. Please go check out some of the other reviews that we did regarding about work with Dove, which is like
half a dozen albums
we've got like at least Decay with Fatboy Sharif, and also
Alaska.
the
Last last year, yeah.
All phenomenal projects. We are big supporters and fans of Steel Tip Dove and what he does with music. Doseone though. Dose has been putting out music for a long time. He's a formative artist for me. One of the I saw a show with him in Hawaii in the year 2001. That's how long I've been a fan of Doseone. I'm a huge fan of Doseone. But how about you, Des? How are you familiar with Doseone?
Actually through this album.
Really?
Yeah. But it's crazy. I saw that he produced an album for this video game.
Enter the Gungeon?
Enter the Gungeon, yes. Yeah, so I played that game. I was kind of surprised. I was like, damn, all right, cool.
He's he's probably made more money making video game music than he ever did through hip-hop. Yeah. But of course he's a hip-hop human being, and that's where his passion comes from. So I mean, Jed, I imagine you're much more familiar, especially hearing my rants over the years.
I've been a casual Cloud Dead guy for probably 10 years, like at this point. I like Deep Auto Dynamics as well. Less clocked in on Dose's solo stuff.
Okay.
Mainly those two groups, those collaborations, and then Alpha. We were gonna do an Alpha video.
Yeah.
Just
the EP, the seven-headed monster one with Aesop and Buck and Y and Mestizo,
the whole crew. Yeah. But that never saw the light of day. We never got around to doing that, did we?
No, we did not.
Casual fan. I will say I'm not like super dialed in the way that you are, but that's just generally true with hip hop. Most people are not dialed in the way Mega is. A big Cloud Dead fan.
One of the things that I've been really enjoying about, and this is going to be a long episode, guys. Like what we do is not like, oh, we like the album because of this. We often talk about like tangents about things, in which I'll go into right now. But I was around maybe the last generation of the 4-element hip hop kids, and growing up on Freestyle Fellowship and Anticon were things that were a part of the ethics. A lot of the things that Dose talks about, that he still highlights here about his kind of ethics and ideas about hip hop and his integrity as an artist and that creative approach, were things that I've loved about his career ever since. But being a half black kid, it's always been a little bit strange being within the circumference of like the Anticon sphere, because first off, most of the artists were white. Of course, they collaborated with black artists, but most of the artists were white. And what was happening to them back in those days is they were getting tremendously white boyed for not doing hip hop right, or not paying enough, allegiance to black art or some things. They were not sampling from the great American songbook of Negro spirituals, funk and soul. Blues, They were pulling Odd Nosdam was doing weird things. Joe was doing weird things. But one thing that I always noticed was that it was extremely forward, extremely high art, and just amazing. It's something that if Jack Kerouac heard Anticon, he would fucking lung. And it's been really nice talking to younger people than me, especially in our Discord or other Discords where you have like 22-year-olds, black kids, being introduced to Anticon, when the only narrative that they really have about it is this kind of ahistorical, I think, divide between Definitive Jux and Anticon.
Yes.
And Doseone, I believe that he's had one of the most incredible careers. You cannot go to one Doseone album and know what Doseone is about or know what Doseone is doing. His entire kind of career has gone places that are so phenomenal that a Cloud Dead album sounds nothing like a Subtle album.
Yes.
A Cloud Dead album sounds nothing like Hemispheres or him on Deep Puddle or Circle. This is a guy who, Cloud Dead probably influenced so much indie rock shit.
Yes.
TV on the radio, like a lot of these bands that are just you just don't know. And he's opened his band. Subtle is open for Primus, and these are the type of people who are noticing him outside of the sphere of hip hop. So I guess without getting too crazy into kind of my connection with Dose and things of that nature, I'll say one more thing. One of my top 5, always on the list since I've heard it, albums of all time is probably one that he doesn't care for all that much, but one that I purchased from him and he gave me a discount as a little 18-year-old idiot, was Green Think.
Okay, yeah.
Blindfold. And I love that album. And it just, to me, it just took hip hop somewhere entirely elsewhere. It wasn't like a song album. It was like a whole
it sounds
project.
Absolutely nothing like the record we're talking about today.
So
indeed.
Why do you think he would rate it so low?
As an artist, he's gone so far from that direction. Even though that's him and Y, it sounds nothing. Well, there's little sprinkles here and there of like Cloud Dead. But Cloud Dead is kind of like a very kind of well-constructed, concise album. This album has just, it seems like a lot of it is them having fun and them just experimenting and doing things that would later develop into parts of their sound. But to me, that album is just full of some of the illest lines. Like on this album, you'll hear like Shakespeare's Gone. Don't even think about him, which was like, if you go back to Green Think, there's a song where somebody is cutting and scratching that same, Shakespeare's Gone. It's a fucking Dr. Octagon. Yes. And so like you follow his trajectory, you'll see a lot of things in it. But what I would, I love that album, Green Think, Blindfold. It to me, like, it's also one of those things you wouldn't recommend to people who are like, if somebody's like, yeah, yo, I fucking love, even if they're like, yeah, I like, I don't know, Jedi mind tricks or some shit. Sure. Some even if they're like, yo, I like fucking Mr. Liff. I'm not going to be like, you know what you should peep? Green Think, Blindfold. And that was a thing back then. It was hard to get people introduced into this side of hip hop that was going in different places. And we still to this day don't have a lot of artists that are accessing and doing that creative type of weirdness. But this album to me feels like something that I've been waiting from Dose for decades now. Wow. If you go back to his solo albums, his solo work, I enjoy them, but there's not like this grand opus that he's created, right? Sure. And also a lot of his rap work, the vast majority of it is with his partner, Jackal, who is a super dope producer. Over the last few years, he's worked with Mestizo on Alpha and Mediocre. And so he's had other connections to like hip hop producers, but this one is with one of the best producers right now.
Maybe the best right now.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it's like him and Kenny Siegel are just on another level when it comes to their ability to meet artists.
And just the sheer volume of how much, like, and it's not like, oh, no, the steel tipped up. Every single one of these albums is like tightly curated and tailored
that's what I was tailored,
the sonic palette of the artists he's working with. He's so good at bringing out the best of the artists that he's working with.
Even of the 3 albums that we just listed that we reviewed, sonically different. He meets them elsewhere, bro. He meets them elsewhere.
The one we reviewed last year and this one, you can tell there's something different about it, but there's still that same like consistent, like almost texture between the two of them, but it still feels tailored to the other artists.
Yeah, he uses every tool in his bag, but it managed to create like sonic qualities that meet the artist for like the best elements that they sound over or whatever you want to call it. But just an amazing producer. And Dose hasn't had that one singular album, and for him to come out with this surprise on Backwoodz, which to me is the giant in underground experimental avant-garde abstract, like that ethics of that throwback ethics that I come from, that I love. You know, we've got some of the best, most radical black artists on there, the most radical, you know, white artists, and now we have like 2 legends dropping. K the I, friend of the show, incredible album drops. Now Doseone being introduced, and not only that, Dose is fucking killing all over this shit. It is just, to me, I know as like a Doseone fan, I probably like it for, there's a part of like the nostalgia and a lot of things that are coming.
Yeah.
But he's so fucking wild with the bars and poetic.
Play something off of the album, right?
I'll discuss. Yeah. We should
go
play
track
some.
by track.
I was thinking of not doing that as much because we get copyright struck all the time, and that's not a problem because I don't care about the monetization. But they reduce the algo, and it's harder for people to find your shit. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Let's play some shit off of that though, because it is just, you know.
I mean, it's difficult to talk about some of this stuff conceptually without also having it present. I will with this introduction with that work. I do want to highlight the sort of timing of the discussion that we're having right now with the passing of David Lynch, because like that line from David Lynch to Doseone is a short line. There is a very clear through line between the work of these 2 artists, and I don't know, you know, I know very little about Dose personally, but you can hear that same like uncanny beauty through like a kind of horror lens that is so prevalent in Lynch's work.
Right.
And you know, if somebody were to describe this album as Lynchian to me, I would absolutely be like, oh yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, it's like the beginning of Blue Velvet, right, where it's like serendipitous kind of Pleasantville, and then it zooms into the fucking worms in the yard and this kind of like undergrowth of something that might seem a little disgusting, or you know, something under the pleasant, and he does do that. I can see that. Yeah. Also, you know, Dax, longtime collaborator with Dose, and went through, you know, like a really terrible accident while on tour with Subtle years ago that left him quadriplegic even. He had quite a difficult life. He just recently passed. So rest in peace to Dax. Like I had kicked it with him a few times, and we would be like some of the only 2 like black folks at these Anticon shows, and you know, he would have his like pink chucks on, and just a really nice, tremendous dude. And it's a sad, I know that's one of Dose's closest friends, and it's sad to hear that, but you know, like he was a great dude.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace for sure. Yeah, fucking, I have like memories of watching like Pedestrian with Josiah, Wise brother, and Dax just chilling and having a good time. But yeah, man, rest in peace. This back to the album. Kind of got myself off on a tangent and shit thinking, but one of the things that I really like about this album is the variety of styles that Dose has.
Yes.
Because you can get caught up in with Dose. I think a lot of even his like older listeners get caught up in the dazzling double time sing song, unorthodox sing song style, and a lot of times it's almost indecipherable. It's hard to make out some of the words, and he still does that, but he's very much more forward in rapping on this, like he has done in the latter part of his career. Of his artistic journey, or his journey as an artist. I hate to turn it into labor, because it's obviously something for him that is labor, but it's also his passion, you know. It's also real hip-hop shit. And so he bombs Double Time on this, but under it you can hear these themes and these elements on the songs. Like that first song, That Work, it kind of like it's like about him as an artist, about him as a human hip-hop element with an ethics and work approach. And one of the things that Dose music has always been filled with is this critique of the way hip-hop is used in the mainstream, and the tropes, and you know, people, the deception of trying not to be your, like you know, a hoodie on a hot day type of thing, you know. The biggest thing that I don't like about this album is that there's not lyrics accompanying it, because I think that Dose's writing, he's released poetry books, The Pelt, and even just full poetry albums, and his writing is something that I am not a bar whisperer by any means. I like reading poetry, but a lot of that is projecting into what it means and coming to conclusions. But if you listen to some of the work on this, like, he bombs, like Godless Opera of Inner Monster, Trauma Bonding, The Way Time Destroys Your Favorite Tape. You know, like, I'm just trying to breathe. What is expected of me? Burned in effigies, self-destruct tendencies. They get the best of me. Houdini, knots, chains, and locks. Let's see what powers this magician's got. And it's like he talks about like seeing no bubbles and ready to flex, ready to die muscle.
Yeah.
It is so incredibly dense, every single verse on this, that I think that even the new kids who are listening to it are going to be dazzled in the same way that they were with KDI. These are the legends who are fucking extremely refined artists like that. Dose is an incredible showman. The first show I saw him at, I think it was 6-2s or gels, the disc didn't work, and so they didn't have beats, and he just performed a cappella. Dazzling performer. I see him do shit with his breath control that I've never ever seen really replicated before, and I've been to 1,000 hip-hop shows with the best, and he bombs on this album with dazzling breath control, different styles, approaches, but on top of that, there is this deeply poetic lens in which he's taking you on all these rides. No, restaurant not, you don't get what you want when it comes from this is him as an artist, you know what I mean? Like, I hope my taxes are spent filling the entire internet with cement. It's fucking amazing, bro. I'm gonna be quiet a little bit because I could ramble about this album all the time and ramble about Dose all day, but yeah, let me wait. Autotune while they sleep, dreaming of hugging mother with a C major, like a C note. You know what I mean? Like these things about how highlights like the nasty ills of rap's obsession with certain tropes and the antisocial and just the flat out foolishness of a lot of this shit is a reoccurring theme in a lot of his music. And I think that it bothered a lot of people back then. I think a lot of people took it as him being dismissive of like black art because there's so many tropes in that type of thing. But the kind of ethics and integrity that he's discussing about hip hop is not about race per se. It's about something that he holds dear and amazing. It's so good, bro.
And there's always a trap or like a pitfall. Sorry, I mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good.
A pitfall where like rapping about rapping becomes like a recursive circle that you see in a lot of hip hop, where it's like the artist is kind of gets lost in the source as it were. And I don't really get that because obviously Dose is like this integral part of the history that he's talking about, and this is something that's very dear to him. But his ability to move between like the ringman, the ringleader, the ringmaster, who kind of shows you, who's kind of introducing the show, this kind of spoken word, slow cadence into his famous sort of double time rapping, into a slightly more traditional, even boom bap type cadence where he's rapping, drumless style or whatever. And his ability to kind of flip between those styles means that even when the subject matter kind of and the themes and the ideas are pulling back to the same place, he's always presenting it through a different context. It's always being shown from a different angle.
He has a tremendous ability to kind of change perspectives on things and to create a new turn of phrase. But, for all his kind of, people used to kind of criticize him for the way that he would gesticulate and be and be really like homophobic about it and things like that. But one thing about Dose is that he's always been also incredibly vicious on the mic. He's always been down to battle without fucking writtens, off the head. That is an ethics he had. Like you don't come to a battle with writtens. You can, like people look at Eminem like some great fucking rap battle champion, but he was fucking using writtens back then. But Dose has always been that. And when you go on songs like Went Off, so many of these songs, he's just like, who the fuck do you think I am? I will still bomb you. I am still hip hop. This is not all fucking poetry either like that. He still bombs. And he's also kind of settled into this more conventional approach to writing, but it's so jam-packed and so precise, and just the multitude of different poetic devices he's using, as well as this multi-syllable fucking it's kaleidoscopic at times. But that's also like a part of it. It's like sometimes I listen to this and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what the theme is, but it's like one of those pictures. Like if you stare at it long enough, you'll start to fucking like hidden image pictures and shit. And you know, like it's just good at that. Like he'll have just very simple lines that I think are just like amazing, like ta-da, like the magician, but then he starts with like to die slow, like ta-da, like it's. But on top of that, also this album, while it is, you know, completely produced by Steel Tip Dove, there's subtle scratching that is almost like hidden in the songs and just layered really well. I think the great Andrew Broder from Fog, who's also done work with, you know, Arm & Hammer recently and Elucid's, he's on Elucid's new album as well. Just a tremendous artist from that era of ill-ass white dudes. He's scratching on this, and we do have a few features on here from some of the greats who we've never heard Dose with before. It's strange to think that there hadn't been a Dose 1 Micah 9 track, but that's also what you get on here. M. Saeed of Anti-Pop Consortium, like also on here. Also with newer artists that are not, I mean, Billy Woods and Open Mike Neagle are not necessarily newer artists, but they did come like a generation or a few years after. And so you have those features. It's only those four, I
believe so.
But yeah, it's amazing. I had people asking me like, "Yo, is who's the other MC on this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Dose. He's just manipulating his voice." But,
see, that's what I wanted to mention. The voice manipulation on this album is insane. Like, I was not familiar with Dose 1's game like that. You know, you can go from one song to the other, and the whole voice changes. Like the voice, the character behind it completely changes, and it gives a completely different atmosphere to the song. It's crazy.
He's been doing like a different. He's been doing like a different voice for a while. It's a little bit more gruff, and I don't know if that's like an age thing or just like how he feels like settling to his style. But it's very different than, you know, the earlier parts of his career. I think there's like there's a few different eras of Dose that you could probably divide up like you could with any artist, but with Dose there's like these vocal eras that have changed. And on this album, he doesn't necessarily settle into the whole of that kind of gruff voice. He brings it back. There's even him singing a little bit on the beginning of songs here. But yeah, it's like, what is the last song, Metric, I think is called? Is that Best Metric?
Yeah.
The voice switch is incredible. I was like, I even was questioning like, is this a feature?
Like,
what's this? But you know, there was a part of me, even though that, you know, I love Dose and I appreciate him and I think that he's one of the greatest to do it of all time. There's a part of me that didn't necessarily care for that change to his gruff voice. This album is a little bit more accessible to me than some parts of Alpha with Mestizo, the great Mestizo, by the way. But this one, man, like you'll have these songs where Dose is like bombing on this type of beat. This is M. Saeed, but or the joint with Breakneck with Micah 9, and his like he's just doing things with his voice and breath control that I think that if you're a student of like rapping or the spoken word, even if you don't care for the voice or anything, it's hard not to be dazzled by just somebody doing that, you know, like so interesting, man. If I could get into like some of the songs, of course that M. Saeed Dial Up, that beat is such a banger. I think what is of course Astro All My Moves and They Lasso, but like this song Scales Away.
Yeah, this one is crazy.
It's kind of just like Dose is almost just like, it's almost like poetry in a way. You know, poetry over a beat. But I mean, it's all rapping too. And I'm not sure exactly what this one's about, but it's at least in part of it seems like him confronting death.
Yes.
You know, like there's
like
scales.
Weight against the feather. Your soul weight against the feather. St. Peter at the gate. Like
And you know, he talks about like the jackal does the jackal headed death, does it ride fucking public transportation, and then he talks about dreaming and you know, I've listened to this album several times since it dropped, and this song several times, and I'm still unpackaging lines. And to me, that's one of I'm a person that actually does like to read poetry. I'm a person that, you know, in our Discord we have a word room for just poetry. It's
just been you and
Tetsuo.
Tetsuo, man.
But you know, like a lot of rap fans, like they love rap and they pretend to like poetry. I'm actually like I love reading poetry, right? And so like I'm picking out these things, and it's just like the use of language is so just
space where his dreams seem and resume a disturbed deep sleep.
And then he'll go from that to like Inner Animal, right? Which is like, does he flip like that Inspect the Deck, Bring the Ruckus verse? Like, my style carries like a pickup truck, but he's like, my style varies. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, Dose is vicious. I've always said, yo, I'll put $1 million on Dose One in a battle against people. You know, like he's just really good at everything. And I think my favorite song on the album might be this, Untouchable. Again, it's like not every song is like he talks about rap a lot, but he talks about, you know, his personal experiences, ethics and stuff. But this one is like it just seems like an indictment of like people trying to be hard all the time and art not being as like an authentic type of thing for them. And Dose has always had such the utmost respect for the craft and practice and culture to the point that it has alienated people. But this one, it kind of reminds me of the song on the Them self-titled album, which, you know, they're themselves now, but when it first came out, it was them.
Yep.
And Crayon Sharpener is one of those moments in Dose's career where he just kind of highlights how important and how beautiful hip-hop culture is to him and how it helps him be better, and it's not selling, it's soul, it's not sold.
Yeah.
And this one is very much like that to me, and there's all these through lines that you can probably connect to Dose One's career, like on this song, the Shakespeare line. Again, it goes back at least a few times, and it's also a part of the ethics. It's like, yo, there's real shit happening right now, like, and I'm one of them. Right. It's dope. And that you go from that to like my other favorite song on the album, fucking No Cops.
Yeah.
It's obviously bombing the fucking Riddle Fang about you know, all of the critiques of capitalism, work, distractions, and the oppressors, and it's just like, yeah, fucking bombing. And I also like, there's no chorus, but at the end it's like, he's like, sports, I don't need it. Cops, I don't need it. Regrets, I don't need it. I like this song a lot,
chorus,
man. No
portrait.
fucking cops. Like, yeah, fuck that. Like the cop in your head, even like to stop you from being yourself. Like,
To stop you from snitching.
but this one seems to be like one of the more political tracks on the album too, because he's talking about like the bell curve, which is famously used to make it
justify
seem
all kinds of horrible racism,
you know, yeah, like.
Crazy.
Props to Dove again, of course.
Oh my God, dude.
Because just absolutely kills it every time. I mean, like the little high pitch, like that gets like added on top, that adds that extra layer of intensity, but at the same time, it's kind of comedic. It's kind of absurd. You know, obviously you got this screaming, and then just like, it's like could be the same sample, just pitched up slightly. It sounds like a little girl. Like I don't know. It's
That's probably Dose.
It might be Dose.
He's so good at changing his voice up. But like, listen to the airy kind of etheric kind of like beauty of Untouchable, which still sounds tough compared to this kind of like, it really, to me, highlights and exemplifies like Dose in a lot of different ways. It meets him at what I think of Dose. Like, yeah, Steel Tip Dove is one of the best producers at like, there's always a doveness to his production, but there's always like this, it doesn't sound like his other work. Him and Kenny Siegel are tremendous at that, and I feel like there's an element of musicality to the production, and by musicality I mean like music theory kind of implemented in different ways, where it's like not just like weird drums, but it's also the incorporation of different sounds and the way that it'll the way it sounds behind you, the way that it's panned, or the way that it's mixed. Like listen, that's got to be Andrew, maybe. Scratch it. And you know, I'm not a sports guy. I watch combat sports, and that's all I've watched for the last 25 years. But and it's like, he has, Billy Woods is one of the, I've called him like the king of vignettes, right? Yeah. Like able to create like a little snapshot almost cinematic, and that kind of pulls the eye, even like a like a director like a David Lynch, like it's amazing. But Dose has also been on that shit for quite some time too, and like on this shit, Wasteland Embrace with Billy Woods, usually Woods washes people.
Oh yeah.
You know, even his contemporaries. But what they're doing here is pretty well balanced. And it's like, Dose says, let it be known that an archetype dies alone, surrounded by clones.
Shit.
Farewell to all the archetypes, bro. Farewell, like an original, you know, like.
Take that, Cole Young.
Yeah, take that, Jordan Peterson.
Hey, leave me out of this.
Yeah, he's probably crying somewhere. But epinephrine pen, also incredible. Like, I was spending so much time trying to pick apart certain songs on the album. Like this to me is an album that I could review now, and then 6 months from now come to a lot of different conclusions and have things. That's one of like the great things about some of these hip hop artists. Is like the music, even though we're so bombarded by like a lot of music that is like you listen and then you put it away. But this, like a great movie, rewards your kind of your rewatches. It rewards your academic intent to it, and the more you try to excavate from it, you'll be able to pull more meaning, because like listen how fucking bombastic this sorcery song stopping mortally wound friendly blood moon in the mood medley decent dude but don't tempt me when I'm saddling my destiny's horse fossil quill killing unholy tonsil apostle of unorthodox. I had a homie like a internet homie that was like, yo, what is Micah doing? I can't make out a single bar. And I'm just like, I get that. However, it's also like a style that has always had a Dada-esque bombing of a bygone era long forgotten.
Micah 9 has always skirted the line between what is he doing and what is he doing, like expertly. Like it's something that Micah 9's always been brilliant at. There's a reason that like that's the name that always pops up on the like here's the biggest vocabulary in hip hop list. Like, oh yeah, it's always Micah 9 is up there. You know, back then there was people who was like, oh, Dose is jacking freestyle fellowship, that double time sing song style that even guys like the illest cats like Staple Mouth was doing in Hawaii or Omega 6 or Bus Driver. It was like, oh, they're kind of just like, aping Micah 9. But if you paid attention long enough, Staple Mouth's doing something different. Fucking Driver's doing something different. Dose is doing something different. And it's good to see that bullshit kind of put to rest and have them together on one track doing exactly what I kind of want them to do. If Dose was rapping like he was on Unbreakable on this track, I'd be like, oh, that was a missed opportunity. But this album just meets me at everywhere I want to fucking be. And fucking love Micah, man. Fucking like, I'm having a conversation next week with Dano, Free Music Empire. We're going to be drafting the great West Coast MCs. I was like, bro, if you don't got Micah 9 or Boots Riley on your list, I don't know how good those lists could possibly be. But yeah, like, Micah just a legend, and it's so tremendous to have it. This album is really good for the new fans or the new listener, and also tremendously rewarding for the people who have been around the culture, or I hate to call it the culture. They've been around this particular part of hip hop, the hip hop community at large. It's so fucking raw. Not for airports too, like so good. I'm sorry for talking so much. Who else got something to say? Sorry. Like, okay. I think you got it.
All right.
I think we got what we got to say in between you. So.
Yeah, okay. The best metric, that beat. You know who I hear over that? Who I love to hear, and I hope Dose continues. Putting out music, collaborating with this kind of more popular biosphere of artists. Like this beat, I hear Quelle Chris over this. I hear Alaska over this. I hear Cavalier over this. Yeah. And I would love to hear those type of artists working with Dose, some of the more contemporary, well-known, figures in the scene just working together. I'm glad to see Dose here. It's like, it's where he should have been. It's where he's always should have been. And it's coming into 2025 with this. I am so tremendously optimistic. I want to say one thing before we get out of here. I was planning on doing a solo video, and in my solo video, I was going to do a segment where I was going to talk about the 5 projects that I wanted this year, like dream projects for me. And the first thing on my list was a Riff Napalm, a Still Riff album. I've been waiting for that for a long time. That's the, you know, like the first time I heard him was on a track with Mestizo, who Dose did the Alpha shit with, right? But it's been decades, and he's got an EP. And while he's done work with Open Mike Eagle and Video Dave on Service Merchandise, which is amazing. Yeah. I want this type of work from him. I want a producer. I want to see his vision. I'm sure he does it. But second on my list was Doseone. And in my head, I was thinking of 2 producers that I would like to do this with. Now, the first was Controller 7, because how dope Shrapnel was. Yes. How dope Shrapnel is. The project last year, how dope Shrapnel is. And Controller 7's relationship, that old Anticon thing. I was like, he's got the variety, he's got the chops, the ability to do it, and him and Dose would put together something amazing. Producer number 2? Still Tip Dove. So I kind of feel like I'm going in. I'm not, you know, I'm a materialist. I don't believe in psychic connection, nothing, or manifesting shit. But yo, I got it. I got what I wanted.
First on the bingo card.
On the bingo card, bro. Like I've got a few names. I love a Jean Grey. I love another Noname. I love another Driver album too. But the Dose one, it's met. I couldn't be fucking happier.
Good start.
I could not be happier. Yo, Deza, grab that flyer right there under that lighter. Right there under that lighter. That's this is the one. Yeah, this is one of the oldest pieces of hip-hop memorabilia I still have. Pango, Doseone, Soul, Pedestrian, Gel, and 6'2" performing at a strip club in Hawaii. It was fucking amazing. It was amazing. Friday, October 27th, maybe 2001, maybe 2001, but maybe 2000. Yeah, but it was amazing, and I got, you know, I've got art that I picked up from Doseone over the years. The last time I saw him perform was in South by Southwest, around the time Free Houdini came out. But man, I'm so happy for Dose. I'm so glad for the new listeners. I've been loving talking to my young black homies about the Anticon cats and how tremendously high quality and how dope they all were. Passage, Pedestrian, all of those fools. Soul, even back then, was one of my favorites. And they got really white boyed. They got a lot of real hate from people who just were not willing to engage with it. And now we're with one of the and you know us, pro-black radical fucking Marxist Pan-African socialist podcast here, and I'm just happy to have an artist like Dose on one of the most radical black fucking outlets in hip-hop that we've ever pretty much had. Backwoods, you guys are fucking killing it, and they take all my money. I felt fucked up because I'm looking at albums of the year, and it's like, oh, Backwoods album. Is it even fair? They are in a transcendent place right now for quality, and in 20 years we're gonna look back and be like, we're gonna look back at 50 albums in the same way we look back at like Cannibal Ox. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one. Like, everybody loves Cannibal. We're gonna look back at like fucking, by the time it's all done, maybe it'll never be done. Remember, in 20 years Billy Woods will be, you know what I mean, old Billy Woods. You know, like, yeah.
I was just thinking like Backwoodz is just like the Dagestan of hip hop right now.
Yeah, bro. From the Caucasus Mountains.
From the Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah, word, life, man. But yeah, you know how we do. We are not your typical fucking quick in and out. We just like to talk about hip hop, and we get on here, and sometimes I have to ramble.
To be like, comment, subscribe. We've got a Patreon.
Join the Discord.
Secret House Against. You know,
we talk about a lot of stuff there. Political jargons.
Come drop your poetry off there too.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, Tetsuo's been using the diphthong too much. I'm a little worried about him. So let's get some variety up in there.
Bastard black cashing in asteroid. Yeah,
so fucking ill.
Yeah, but we're in there talking about politics. We're in there talking about rap music. We're in there talking about everything that's really interesting. So
and shouts out to our friends Caltrops Press, Noname Book Club, the Sonic Cloth, who is currently on hiatus, but he'll be back. Free Music Empire, Extraordinary Rap,
Call Out
Culture, Focus Hip Hop. Shouts out to the homie OG Nick Marsh. I don't know where he's been at, but I'm sure he's doing well.
He's a college student. He's doing it.
He's doing his thing. All the homies.
Yeah, read theory and think about thought. I don't know.
Raps.
People are on the screen right now.
What do you want? I'm way ahead of you. What do you want? My songs are not a restaurant. Sit down, be nice.